Hi, everybody. Welcome to the new construction meeting. I know right now you're looking at my desktop. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I highly suggest you to have lots of paper, lots of pens, because you're going to want to take a lot of notes. Okay. So let me go ahead and bear with us because we're trying this a different way. So technology is always a challenge. So here we go. Okay, let me minimize this, make the screen a little bit bigger. Okay, so some of the things that we're going to be covering is standard practices of new construction. Again, this is our first one, so given the feedback is maybe we'll tweak it a little bit, but this will give us an overview of the process. I'm sure that everyone, this is going to go into a lot more detail, so bear with me. And here we go. We've already got our new glitch. Okay. Can we flip this anyway? No. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and try to scan this, but we're going to move on from this. But basically, and I apologize, it's been a crazy day in here. So some of the benefits that we're going to talk about is, first thing we're going to talk about is how to identify a new construction buyer. So a lot of the times when we're out and, we're showing resale properties, and there always seems to be something wrong or something they would have done differently or, something they would have added to. Those are cues to really identify a new construction buyer. Another thing too is that, obviously they're out looking at displays every single weekend, and they know already that new construction is the way to go. So let's go through these real quick. Perhaps they love the idea that they can be the very first owner. Everybody likes new, just like a car. A couple of things is new homes are built with new materials and appliances, so less maintenance is typically required. Another thing is utility bills, safety features. One thing, I'm not going to go through every single one of these for lack of time, but one of the biggest things is that, code, ordinances, everything changes and is up to date. So that is an absolute wonderful thing with new construction. Okay, so here's some of the things that we're going to cover. And guys, I'm apologize. We're going to send out our copier stopped midstream and got all of these out of order. So I don't know quite what we're going to do on this. Hold on one sec, Lindsay. We'll probably have to send you guys another invite. Lindsay. Oh, the packet's out of order. I don't know how in the heck that happened. I don't know what to do now.
How is it out of order? This is how it was. I don't know what order you had it in. 8, 9. Looks like it's in order. You have them numbered.
Okay, let's go back. Thank God it's just the team on this, and I'm not doing this live in front of everybody else. Okay. Okay, so let's start. And some of these might be out of order, and I have these copies so you guys can have it all. And I so apologize. Okay, so let's go back to the notes. The new construction buyer, we've covered that in that, one, they're saying a lot of different things that are going wrong, and two, they're out looking at displays every single weekend. So that's one thing that indicates that. So the second thing that we're going to cover is knowing the market. So I guess the best thing to do first in that is you personally visit all the displays. I would go see McBride. I would go see Lombardo. I would go see the biggest builders, shop and pick up their packets, and take them home, go over them, review them, and take notes. Introduce yourself to the sales manager. Ask what their recent solds were so you can kind of get an idea, because bear in mind, not everything is recorded in the MLS. So that's going to be a big, huge factor when you go for appraisal. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to cover is, let me add this. One good thing about too, when knowing your market, a great way, just kind of a marketing tip just popped in my head. We just had a class on live streaming. When you go visit the sales manager, go through the display, live stream, even though we cannot co-market because some of these are, of course, exclusive with other brokerages, but there is nothing that can't say that you can't live stream. Hi, this is Janice. I'm here at this lovely Berwick display model in McBride. And if you need more information, please just give me a call. I'd love to represent you, or whatever you guys want to throw together like that. But, I'm sure the sales manager, include them. Interview the sales manager if that's a subdivision that you want to promote and highlight or farm. Another thing is you can call certain realtors and ask if you can co-market their listings. And that's going to be a whole different class. And before you do that, call me first and let me see who's the listing agent. Some are on board because obviously the goal of every listing agent should be to properly market the home and get as many buyers through as possible. Okay, let me see if I have anything in my notes. So again, with the unique value proposition, if you want to present yourself as a new construction expert, what does that look like? What are some of the questions that would need to be answered by a client? Do again an interview like that, and always promote yourself as someone who's in the know and has the knowledge, and make sure you do have the knowledge. Facebook, we're so blessed. I mean, Facebook is the best place to put that. Okay, so the next thing that we're going down to is a team approach and defining roles. When I was a sales manager and I sat behind the desk of a couple of different builders, I was lucky because I was a licensed real estate person as well that did residential, that did resale. I think that a lot of agents come through that office door and they're very, very uncomfortable because this is one transaction that they may not feel in control of. So here's a couple of helpful tips that you might want to consider. When you have a buyer, I always would call first and introduce myself and briefly describe the needs or the goals of my buyer, and kind of set up a time that particular sales manager can set aside that can maybe ask them questions. Or even better yet, if your buyer has already visited the display and filled out a guest registration, naming you as the agent that directed them there, then that sales manager might be comfortable with a conversation that will send you information, and that you could sit down and do a consult without the sales manager there. And we'll go through a worksheet later in the presentation. So you call the client in, you sit there and you go, let's make a wish list of all the things that your needs and wants. And then you would go ahead and consolidate that, have those conversations in a lot more comfortable atmosphere, saving you time, saving the buyer time, and most certainly saving the sales manager time. Some of them are reluctant to give you pricing online because they feel that they better represent the builder. And also, too, to tell you the truth, they're also concerned with you not knowing the verbiage, you not knowing what you may be presenting on behalf of the builder. Totally get that. So as usual, communication is always the key. All right, so let's see. Allow that sales manager to lead the process. That they are the expert in that particular product. Now, bear in mind, you don't know how well they're trained. You don't know their extent of their knowledge. So always, it's better for you to be proactive in the beginning. You get the education and then teaming with that sales manager. By all means, respect their territory, let them lead the conversation. But again, the other advantage of that buyer's consult that you did prior is that you've already established some parameters and some boundaries with that buyer and what they're really seeking. So it's just a win-win situation. Okay, so let me see what else. Again, it's just set an appointment, create that game plan, emphasize to the sales manager that they'll save them time. You will get pushback, but you'll just be a better, more flow to it, a better situation. Okay, so you ask them to, let's go on. I do have some handouts here. This option sheet here, number 3, that is something I do on a buyer consult. You can get a lot more detailed with that, but I have them, I even emailed this to them prior. I ask them, in the perfect world, what would be your must-haves? And then I have them fill out this option sheet. Is a walkout a walkout? Is that a priority? A 9-foot pour, which is perfect to do finishes. Gas line, ice maker, little bitty things that you may not think about, but it's good to get a good foundation and kind of get these answers, these questions answered before you even go in. Okay, so let's see what's next on our list. So we identified a new construction buyer. They want new, shiny, smells good, first time they've ever been there, first time home, first time anybody's ever owned. They've got to be a part of the process. You've identified the market by visiting different builders, displays, introduce yourself to sales managers, ask them to send you any promotions, any new things that are happening in the subdivision, price changes, all those kind of things. And then also we've talked about how to define the roles and be a part of the team, how to set it up prior, make your wish list, make it as easy as possible for everybody involved. Okay? So let's talk about some of the highlights of most contracts. Before we get into the contract itself, bear in mind a couple of different things. Every builder is different. Every builder has their own contract. Every builder, and you will never use a residential sales contract in new construction. Absolutely all the larger builders, which we call production builders, they do high production, 2,000 a year, those kind of things. They most definitely have their own systems. Smaller builders may not. And so that's when you really need to be proactive and be aware of, the processes, the construction terms, because you really need to protect your client. Okay? So let's talk about some of the things that usually are in the contract or as part of the contract. The first thing that we're going to touch is something that I did a few years ago, and it was out at Hannah Ridge, and it's what we call a plot map. A plot map will identify the different phases which may affect price. They'll identify what's sold, what's available for purchase, and kind of give you an overview of the overall layout of the subdivision. This more than likely will be a part of your contract. So let's just say you have a buyer and they want to purchase lot 20. So as silly as it may seem, every detail matters in new construction, and there's so many details. It's unreal. So a sales manager will circle lot 20, put a little initials next to it, that you are both identifying that your buyer, everybody involved, is that buyer is purchasing lot 20. Okay? So that's going to be part of the contract. Next is called, and again, I can send these slides to you. Next is called, here to the left, is a lot matrix. A lot matrix you more than likely will not see. The sales manager uses it for a couple of different things. As you can tell, on the far left is the lot number. And then we identify the lot number by the actual legal address. Now here, this particular subdivision was not concerned with a left-hand or right-hand garage. Now what that means when you hear somebody say that is you're facing the home and the garage is either on the left-hand side or the right-hand side. Now you're thinking, well, what's the big deal about that? It's huge, because if your buyer is looking at a display, they are under the assumption that all homes built in that floor plan look just like the display, and they do not. Sometimes the floor plan will be flip-flop. So this is how you'll identify that through your sales manager. Another thing that will be on here is, of course, the phase. And the reason why the phase is sometimes important is because you got phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Usually there's different pricing incentives. So, or maybe there's a delay. Maybe they haven't started in phase 2 or they haven't started in phase 3. So that's something that's going to be, important factor as well. Huge is the grade of the lot. So there's a couple of different choices here. We have a walkout, which means, of course, that you can put a full frame walkout or a standard walkout. Now, the difference between those two is a full frame walkout means that back wall is stud. So you can put extra windows in there. After the fact, it looks nicer because you can bring the vinyl all the way down to grade. That's usually a requirement in more expensive or higher end subdivisions. You'll never see a concrete foundation. Okay, so that's something that, again, that you need to point out. A standard is a standard level. There would be usually a patio. You'll have your regular basement windows. Sometimes you may be able to put larger windows in there, and then that is called a lookout. Lookout, which is a modified between a standard foundation and a walkout foundation. So you could see them sometimes when you drive around. There'll be a larger window where actually you can have counted as an egress window. So those are very, very important things, because sometimes with buyers, it is a deal breaker. They want a walkout, but maybe they don't want to pay for the full price for a walkout. So they'll go with a lookout. So they can put larger windows in there for egress, more light, a lot of different factors. Another thing is the square footage of the lot. So of course, the more square footage, usually the higher the premium will be, and other factors could be here. Is it a corner lot, which I'm saying it here with the details? Is there more trees? Is there, different things that will determine the amount of the premium that builder will charge. Bear in mind, you're going to get this a lot, and I heard it at the open house I did last Sunday. It's like, I want a larger lot. You guys, it's just not going to happen in most new construction subdivisions. the land is very, very expensive, and it's just expensive to build. Most subdivisions will not even allow a 3-car garage, because what determines that is the frontage. So if you've got, when you're looking at different floor plans, or you're looking at blueprints, usually the larger builders have already determined this for you. The front of the house is going to determine if you can put a 2 or 3 car on there. A front of a house, like say an 80-foot front, will most certainly, unless it's a really big ranch, accommodate a 3-car garage. So these little things that you don't necessarily think of is all factors in the type of house you build. You can't just go into a subdivision and say, I want this house and I want it on this lot. Everything has to make sense to the builder. It has to fit. 3 cars are really hard to find. Okay, so, and here I exited here for this particular, I created this for this particular builder. So I actually X if it was going to accommodate a 3-car or not. And I'll tell you right now, set your buyer up. If it's a lot that'll accommodate a 3-car, you will pay a premium on that, because those are just, again, so difficult. Supply and demand, it's like everything. Okay, so if you have any questions on that, let me know. And I'll try to see if I have some questions at the end. I'm going to try to get through the information. So write down your questions as we go along. And then it's kind of hard for me to switch back and forth the screen. Okay, so another thing is, as you see here, this is a copy of a typical builder floor plan. Now, these are what's handed out, and this is something else that I recommend you do in the buyer consult. What happens with buyers sometimes is they'll see these floor plans and they'll think what they see on the floor plan or what they see in the display comes with the home. So far from true. So the best way that I used to do a buyer consult is I would take a blank floor plan, I would take a wish list, I would take a standard feature, and I would go down the floor plan. I would walk through the floor plan as if I was walking into the home. So I would start here, and I would suggest, or have them visualize different things that they would want. For instance, this shows here a vault. Most vaults in most floor plans will either say they're standard here, or they'll say that's an option. Then the ceiling fan. Now, you think, okay, fine, it's just a ceiling fan. Is it a ceiling fan with a dual switch? That's probably going to be an option. What you get in lieu of that with most production builders is what is called a keyless fixture, which is a wiring is there with just a light bulb. So you have to get that detailed with your buyer and say, if you have a vault, I highly suggest that you do a dual switch ceiling fan, and that they'll brace that as well. Okay? With these open floor plans, a silly thing is an electrical outlet. When you place your furniture. Spindles, half wall with a cap, which means it's a solid wall. Is it a wood spindle? Is it a wrought iron spindle? Every single thing needs to be addressed. Here, you'll see an island, or, does it have a 2-foot overhang? You have to ask for that. Well, of course you want a 2-foot overhang, because you want to be able to put your chairs there. Fireplace, wood burner, gas fireplace. How big is the box? In the kitchen, do you want a gas stove, which they have to do an additional gas line, which is an extra expense? Do you want a smooth top? Extra expense. So every single thing, I think you guys are getting the gist of this. Every single thing. Eventually you'll get into the flooring. Here, I just did this lines here. Does your buyer want the concrete, the driveway poured from the edge of the garage? That is not a standard in most cases. So Every single thing needs to be addressed. What else do I have on here? The master bedroom has a tray or a coffer. I don't know which one, I can't tell by the picture. So again, in your master bath, huge. Do not ever let a buyer build a home without double sinks. Adult height, double sinks in a master, new construction is a must. Hallway, you can get by with it depending upon the price range. So each bedroom, are they going to do a ceiling fan? Do they want dual switch again? So all those things, you're going to get really into detail, and it's going to come into play here in a little bit further along in the presentation. Okay, so let's go here. I threw in a couple of elevations as well. Elevations are expensive. You never want any confusion on elevations. Those are next to impossible to correct after the fact. The elevation is part of the footing that's poured. It's part of the blueprint and the permits that's requested from the municipality. So you want to double make sure that you're crystal clear on this. So what notes did I make on here? Again, usually most of the production builders will have elevation A, elevation B, elevation C, which each of those elevations is an upgrade, not only in detail, but also in price. So your buyer still might want to modify that. Some builders are okay with that. So you guys are getting to see all my pop-ups. I'll tell you, I don't know how to stop those. So even the garage door, you can have sunrise windows. You can have the new carriage doors. You need to mark that all on this elevation and make sure everybody's on the same page. If your sales manager is not doing that and being as detailed as I'm speaking to you right now, that's a red flag. So be aware. Shutters, shutter colors, doors, upgraded door, with the windows, side lights on the side. So this, to me, if I was a buyer, would look like this is all standard. And it could be, but that's a question you need to hear. Shingles. Are they going to be the standard shingles, which you need to refer to your standard sheet? Is architectural shingles a standard in this particular subdivision? Those are the things you'll want to know. Here is kind of a funny thing, and I don't know how many times that we got dinged on this, but this fact of this fireplace right here, this can actually go into the easement. So make sure that your buyer just know these kind of things happen. A lot of the pushback that I used to get when I was a sales manager is, why do I need a survey in a subdivision? You guys would not believe how many mistakes are made, one, and two, we have to know if that house is going to fit on that lot. Again, because of the easements, a 15-foot side easement, you just don't know, depending upon the subdivision. You just don't know if that fireplace is going to go over that easement. Now, that's going to be a problem. So sometimes you can get a waiver for that. Sometimes you can't. So all these things are important. Here, this particular floor plan has the upgraded doors, has all beautiful stonework. Make sure that you address those questions. It has some keystone above the window. Is this standard? Which I bet you $1 million. Of course, it's not. What's included, what's not included. Note any changes in writing. Make sure everybody signs. Another thing which I was surprised about, and again, depending upon the subdivision, sometimes there is a landscaping package included. That will be indicated on your standard feature sheet. Now, bear in mind, that does not mean necessarily that your buyer can go to Home Depot or Lowe's and pick out what they want. Usually it is determined by the builder at the time of season and how much they considered in the cost of the landscaping with the base price and everything else. Okay? Even as something small as these railings, everything needs to be noted. I think I probably I've driven that home, but I'm telling you, would be amazed because there's so many details and it's so overwhelming, the process for your buyer, how much you think they're hearing and they're not. So again, documentation is the key here. Okay, what do we have on here next? This is something, again, I showed another example. This is a really expensive elevation here. It's absolutely beautiful. This highlighted part here, which you'll hear this term a lot, it's called sill brick. Sometimes, depending upon the subdivision, that might be a standard. They'll say a standard feature is sill brick. So that means that the brick's going to come up to the bottom of the windowsill here. Now you can tell here that this is a full brick here, this is a full brick, and this is another sill brick. So again, make sure everything is noted, that your buyer knows for an absolute fact how much brick they're getting and how much brick they're paying for. That's probably one of the most expensive things to do on an elevation is brick and stone. So, okay, so this is something I threw in here too, that in the beginning it's okay. So you're going through your typical options, vaults, gas lines, fireplaces, all that kind of a thing. Now, sometimes your buyer is going to want something custom. That means that sales manager will not have the price, has never done that particular feature before, and so you'll send a special request. Builders do not have to say yes to these things, especially during the building process. And we'll get into that more when I talk about the color sheets and what all comes with the pre-con meeting. But the best time to do these is in the beginning. Changes are very difficult to do after the fact. Once you do the blueprint and you do the pre-construction meeting with the building manager, the project manager, it's almost impossible to make changes after that. And if you're going to pay for them. Depends upon the builder. But again, guys, I've said on both sides of the desk, there's nothing worse than someone has not taken their time and really thought this through. And when you're in the building process, you're at foundation and they're saying, and all the blueprints went out to all the trades and they're getting bids for that house, is you have an out of control buyer. Stay control of your buyer. You're not doing them any favors, because what's going to happen is your builder is going to get mad by the stopping in the process. They have deadlines to meet, and then they have to recommunicate everything. So everything up front as much as possible. Okay, so I talked about the survey. You are going to get a pushback. Most title companies will not insure. They will not make an exception. I would go ahead and go beyond the spot, get the boundary. $150, $200 more. It's so worth it to have the complete 100% coverage. Okay, I am not going to get into a lot of detail about the contracts, just some overviews, because each contract is different. I personally would ask that sales manager to send it to you ahead of time. Some of them may not want to do that, but understand that you need to be in the knows. You need to you need to know what's going to happen, what you're committing to, what you're expecting your clients to commit to. Most of these are standard. I just pulled up a standard HBA one. This is an older one. I have a couple of more I can probably send people for, just to kind of read through. The gist of them are pretty much the same, and that's the ones what I'm going to highlight. So you have your base price sheet, and you have all your base prices. So that's what we always start with, and we build from there. The base price of any home will include the standard features. So base price is including all the standard features, okay? That is not negotiable. So we start with the base price, and then as we go through our options, let's pretend like they went a vault. So let's say a vault, and I have a sample of one here later, but a vault is 850. You're going to add it to the base price. A gas fireplace is 5250, and you keep on going from there. Um, Depending upon the subdivision, I kind of see an average of options, probably about 30 to 35,000. Again, depends upon price point. But prepare your buyer for that. So if your buyer is pre-approved for 250, don't take them to a subdivision that's base prices are 250. They're going to add some options. They really, really are. Okay. Earnest money. Most builders today, after the crash back when, when a lot of builders were leaving town and taking the money with them, or actually a couple of times title companies even closed down. But most of the larger builders will be okay with their title company holding the earnest money. And again, I purposely said their title company. There is so much paperwork, so many construction lien waivers, blah, 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 blah. Going in the back end of this, I highly, highly recommend that you use the builder's title company. It's going to save everybody a lot of headaches, and it's just simple. Everything is there. They'll have everything set up with lien waivers and all that kind of stuff that you don't have to deal with it as much. Okay. There's a couple of different things. When I was selling, and we had the 210 warranty, which is in addition to the builder's warranty. Some builders will do no warranty. Some builders will do a first year warranty that they'll do after the walkthrough items are addressed. They'll come back out at no additional cost and address anything else that you find within the first year. Most appliances are 2 years. So again, it's different. So you need to find out if that builder's offering a warranty. Usually they'll give you a copy of the little booklet, which I have some at home. I'll bring if you guys ever want to see them. Or they'll have in detail what they will and will not do. Very, very important again. Okay. Yes, I have worked for one builder who's out of business now that would not offer a warranty at all. You can negotiate those in. 210, you can offer, your buyer that particular thing at the builder's expense, but we'll go into negotiations a little bit at another time. Very few builders do not offer warranties because they know buyers want them. Okay, again, I emphasize best to close at the builder's title company. Liens back in construction will be in one place. Another thing too, and I don't know if it was on this page or the page prior, most builders will not give you an exact closing date until you're under roof. Usually, once you're under roof, you're about 30 days out. Okay, but a lot of builders will, I don't know one, that'll give you an exact closing date, which makes sense. You don't know what the weather is going to do. You don't know if there's going to be a shortage of lumber. You don't know what's going to happen. There's going to be things that maybe that's out of that builder's control. So most builders will give you a 90 to 120 days. Okay, and it depends. There's a couple that have unique building strategies or policies, like Syntex, I think, is one that their build date is 6 months out. So again, that was important for you to shop those builders prior, because if that's not in your buyer's mindset or goal, I certainly would not take them there with a 6 month, build time. But usually you'll know that up front. Silly as it may seem, the shrubbery, furnishings, appliance, decorating, wall covers are not part of the sales, the home that you're going to be building and purchasing from this builder. I have actually had people ask me that. Okay, this is another big deal, especially out here in St. Charles County. In the event that rock is encountered upon excavating, and which is a lot more labor intensive for the builder. He might take care of that financially personally, or there might be in a situation that there might be some extra expense involved. They will disclose that. It's in this particular contract. It says you have 10 days to decide. But this is a legitimate concern for builders. You know, they'll do their engineering in the beginning, but you just never know until you start digging. I know, particularly Hannah Ridge, where I was at, there was a lot of rock, a lot of rock. Okay, but that's something again that's going to be addressed. What else did I highlight on here? I've actually had this happen one time. If the case happens that you have just an out of control buyer, not happy with anything, just complain, nothing the builder is doing right. The builder can decide to forfeit that contract. It has happened. I've actually seen it back in the day, a year after closing. The builder just said, I just can't deal with this individual. I'm buying back the house. So, you know, that will be within the contract. And so you'll come across that when you're reading it through. Another thing which comes up is sod. Sod will not be laid more than likely the day of closing. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Now, there's a couple of reasons why, and buyers will never understand it. Who's going to water it? If the house is vacant, and you know, something delays with closing on the financing end, you just never know who is going to water that sod. That sod needs to be watered daily. So that's one reason. Another reason is that weather. Sometimes the sod farms, it's too wet, or you know, the trucks can't get back and get the sod. Or three, it depends upon closing date. It depends upon what side of the street you live on, when there's a schedule when you're going to get that laid, you know, that sod laid. So the sales manager will go into that in quite detail and kind of give them an idea. You know, you're on the schedule, it's on the right side of the street, going by closing date first. So that's something to kind of note. Another thing is sod is laid green side up. Builders will not give a warranty on sod. They won't do it. It'd just be crazy. Also, too, another thing that you're going to hear is, well, the rock. There's so much rock, they're going to lay the sod on top of the rock. Well, you know, your buyer can go ahead and take all that rock out of that lot. But let me tell you, that rock is buried very, very deep underneath. And those rocks come up to the surface. It'll be years later. So by all means, I mean, you know, this is just nature, and there's just really no controlling it. Another thing that they won't warrant is driveway sometimes, because you know when you have salt on a vehicle and make the concrete pit. Ask your sidewalks, you know, if you put salt on the sidewalks, you know, so they really recommend you to seal your flat work, you know, your patios, your sidewalks, your driveways as soon as possible. So again, they won't give a warranty on that. One thing they do consider as being part of the warranty is most cases is when there's you know, I don't remember the exact inches. I think it's a half inch or maybe even smaller than that. That will be defined in your booklet. But you know, so pay attention to that when it's, you know, the sidewalks moving and the driveway sinking. They do guarantee that. Now, one thing that they're doing now, most municipalities, they weren't doing back in the day, to help avoid street creep, is that the first 6 foot of the driveway has rebar. So that's a nice thing that they did that. Okay. Let's see, this is something that I did extra because I wanted to really make sure that people were aware of, you know, what happens when they start building. All contingencies, before they actually start digging a hole, and I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail, that they may ask for additional monies. They might, you definitely have to waive all your contingencies. Your financing contingency has to be waived. Once they start digging a hole, they've already incurred some expense by applying for permits and purchasing the blueprints and, all those kind of things. So it has to be very clear that there is a point of the transaction. There's no turning back. So, of course, the builder, when they start incurring expenses, they're going to want more of a buy-in from your buyer. It just makes sense, right? So it's going to depend upon the particular builder. They will make that crystal clear what has to happen to start digging. Okay, so I just did an extra addendum that I wanted them to be exceptionally clear. It's like, guys, you're not going to get your money back. If you go further, you proceed from here, that's it. Okay. So this is when it gets down to the nitty gritty. Most of these things nowadays are on a computer system, but this is a PDF and it's perfect for kind of what we're talking about here. This is one sample of, yes, I wrote this personally, so if my lines are crooked, whatever, but the information is great. This is what is called a color sheet. So let me kind of reiterate the process we've done so far. Subdivision, you picked out a lot. You know if it's a walkout. You know if it's going to accommodate a 3-car. You've got your pricing. For your additional options, you have written the contract. The builder has signed off on the contract. You might have done negotiations. You might not have. Some builders won't negotiate. Some builders will. So you've got this nice little packet going on. Everything you signed off on, crystal clear what you know is a standard feature, as opposed to you signed off on what you know is an option. So when your buyer goes, well, wait a minute, I thought that was a standard feature, you're going to pull out your option sheet and say, no, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer, here's the option sheet that you signed off on. That means option means additional cost. Standard means it's included in the base price. Okay, so everything is fine, everything is good. We're just going along. Your financing's in order, everything, and any additional monies that the builder required has been paid or is going to be paid, or whatever arrangement you've made on that. This is the Bible, the color sheet. This is a huge deal. You want to be a part of this. You want to know everything is noted, everything is clear. So let's go through a couple of these items. And actually, guys, this is what the house is going to be built from. So it goes to every single detail, even to the door, the garage door. Is it a double and a single? Is it 3 singles? Does it have a service door? Yes or no? Is it coming with a garage door opener? Believe it or not, that is not a standard feature. A service door is that side entry door. Patio size. What's your standard feature? Is it a 10 by 10? Does your buyer want a 20 by 20? Did you get the pricing for that? Deck location, size, color, type of handrails. What else we have on here? Bay windows. First floor is a big deal. Is it a 9-foot? That's all framing. Is it a 9-foot basement pour? Do they want grills? Do they want them in the front? Do they want them in the side? Cabinetry. Sometimes, they want different cabinetry. Again, I would highly recommend adult height vanities in the master. Did you get the pricing for that? Do they want stack drawers? Do they want apron drawers? So there is a lot to it. A lot to it. Do they want their doorways rounded? Another big thing that I would almost make a must for any particular buyer is the basement roof. Do they want a half bath? Do they want 3/4 bath? That's always really, really nice for them to do in the beginning of the construction. Upgraded faucets, elongated toilets, toilet color. I mean, here we go. Stain spindles, painted spindles, pocket doors, HVAC selections. It's really recommended in a 2-story once you get about 2,500 square foot that you start looking into your dual systems or at least your higher efficiency furnaces. Let me see what else. Ceiling fans, electrical panels. Do you need an extra electrical panel? So here I put down here kind of a checklist for the pre-con meeting. So hold on, let me finish with this. Fireplace mantle. I created, people are very visual, so you'll want to make sure that can they see the mantles? What is a standard mantle? What is an upgraded mantle? Recessed lighting, garage coach lights. That's another thing. Most cases, not all cases, garage coach lights, those lights that go outside your garage doors are not standard. So one of the worst things in the world is to be drilling through your vinyl or God forbid your brick if you got, your additional brick on that. So that's something that you need to make crystal clear as well. Always compare when you initially do the contract, sit down for pricing, always compare your standard sheet to your option sheet. Must do that. Lower in the fireplace, all kinds of stuff. So this really goes into a lot of detail. I would personally look at this and so you can even be aware of some of the things that you can ask. Another goofy thing, and I've learned so much from other buyers throughout the years, what a cool concept if you have a big walk-in closet in the masters to have an extra outlet in there. Put your ironing board up there. Just little bitty things. This is why people build new construction, because you get to do these little touches and make it your own. Okay? Most cases, if not all cases, a refrigerator is not included. But if your buyer is short on cash, a builder will allow you to, I've had people buy refrigerators. I've put them in a sales contract. I've had, people buy washers and dryers. Always make sure that you check with the lender. Bring your lender in and make sure they're okay with how things are written up. Another point that I cannot drive home enough is change orders. Okay, so once you've decided on everything, and we'll talk about the pre-con meeting in a little bit more detail, you're going to put this packet together. And the packet is, which I showed you here, is going to consist of the blueprint. This blueprint is actually a full-size blueprint that builder is going to hand out to the trades in which this home is going to be built from. This is recorded. They went to municipality. They pulled permits. They've done all these things. Then you're going to have your plot plan, which we talked about. The elevation changes, which I made a big deal. Everything is going to be initialed. Floor plans with your ceiling fans, with your electrical outlets, all your different options. Cabinet layout is a pretty big deal. So that's going to maybe affect backsplashes, plumbing. You just don't know. So you're going to have your cabinet layout. You've picked out your cabinet color, sometimes with the builder's color rooms. Sometimes they make you go to the cabinet company. So I'm glad I brought this up with the cabinet and flooring. Most cases, 99% of the time, the builders will not negotiate cabinets, nor will they negotiate flooring. And I'll tell you why. These are third parties. They do not make the cabinets. They actually contract that out to a local cabinet company. And the flooring, like Ambassador Flooring, was huge with McBride. So they don't get to have any sway with the pricing as much. So what they sometimes will negotiate with things that they do, for lack of a better term, in-house, framing things, sometimes, the electrical outlets, just different things like that. So those are just easier to negotiate than, appliances or flooring, again, because they're paying top dollar for those as well. Okay, so let's go back here. We're putting all this together. Now, usually what happens once this packet's complete, you have all the builders got the blueprint, you've got all your colors and all your selections and all your option pricing. You're ready to go. Your contingencies have been waived. You made an additional earnest deposit if that was necessary. You're ready to go. Okay, so this is when it gets interesting. You're going to meet the project manager. You're going to put this entire packet together. Once he goes through every single detail, he is going to make notations. If you change a wall, if you got 42-inch cabinets, if you've got adult house vanities, he usually puts all this on the blueprint to give to his carpenters. If you make a 9-foot pour, that's going to go to the foundation. Each trade, for lack of a better term, is going to get their own set of blueprints with their job. They don't always talk to each other, but if you guys will ever walk into McBride's, one I'm most familiar with, if you walk into anything under construction with McBride, you'll see those taped up on the wall. This is why it gets sticky making changes. These crews go in and rock and roll. They've got a time frame, right? So they're going to go in and they're going to take those blueprints and they're just going to go. Now, if you make a change, then that means you go to your sales manager. While they're still building your home, the sales manager has to go to the project manager. While they're still building your home, the project manager hopefully has to get to the supervisor of that particular trade. Supplies have already been ordered. Things have already been paid for on your buyer's behalf. Do not make changes. If it is absolutely necessary, prepare your buyer to pay some money. We used to charge $500 for a change order fee. It's got to be worth their while to stop the train and make all these changes. So please, please, please do your best not to do that. Here is, and it's sideways again, I apologize, but relationship with an expert, access to the professional for all the questions. Again, I'm going to send these out, especially because they're crooked. Next time we'll upload them in the right order, or whatever the case might be. It happened, we were in a hurry to get this uploaded. So I did do a cheat sheet of what happens next. Okay, this form here, I highly recommend you to hand out in your buyer consult. Set the expectation up front. Let them know what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, and why they might get pushed back at certain periods. Okay, so you had your pre-construction meeting. That's after you completed your packet. Again, everything is in a nice, neat little packet prior to this pre-construction meeting. The guy in charge is going to confirm that the communication is all on the same page. Yes, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, you meant to pick this color and this is what this means. Everything is confirmed. You must be there. You must be there when they go under contract and they negotiate and they talk numbers, and you must be there with a pre-construction meeting. Now, your buyers are going to come through that display all the time. No, you don't need to go to every single time. But that sales manager needs to know that you're a team and that you are aware of what your buyers are doing. Nothing worse for a sales manager is to pay 2.7% out and only see the agent one time. Or go talk pricing with your buyers. Tell them not to talk pricing directly with that sales manager ever, unless you're present. Okay? The sales manager doesn't want to be responsible. You need to earn your commissions. Okay? And you got to represent your client. I mean, that's what we're getting paid to do. So, stay in communication with the sales manager. She gets it if they're coming in all the time. Emphasize to them again, do not ask her questions. I prefer to do everything by email so everything is documented. Absolutely. Documentation is the key in this business. Okay, so we did the pre-construction meeting. Everybody's happy. They're going to pour the foundation. And depending upon the weather, depending upon this and this and that, ask your project manager at the time of the pre-construction meeting, how long do you let the foundation cure? If it's 100-degree weather, it might change if it's, the building in 50-degree weather. So ask those questions. The rough frame, exterior products, let's go back down. Rough mechanicals. Now, one part before they start, when they do the rough mechanicals, depending upon the builder, whatever, they might want to meet you to do the electrical. Where do you want that electrical outlet? Where do you want that where do you want that light fixture? Where do you want this at and that at? Your cable, your phone, which, all those things. So there'll be another meeting. I don't always attend those. But the project manager will be there with that. If you'd like to, it's best if you do that. But they'll make a note of where those actually go. It's very, very difficult. The pre-construction meeting, they might ask your buyer to make note there. It's kind of difficult to do it then because you don't have a visual. So that's something you have to work out with that individual builder. Again, they're a machine. They got to rock and roll. They got to get these houses done. Okay. Insulation and drywall. That means it's no electrical changes after that. Is they have to wire them through and all those kind of things. The interior finish, completion. Now, most builders will not allow your buyers through once it gets to flooring. Now, I always loved my buyers to go through the house as the sales manager representing the builder because it's their home. They're going to see things that I won't see. If I've got 5 or 10 houses under construction, which was the case back then, they're going to catch different things. But this is where it's the relationship really comes into play. They're going to get anxious. They're going to get nervous. They're going to get scared. They're going to worry that something's going to be missed. Again, it's your job to calm them down. Hopefully you did all your homework up front. And you know what? They do find things that sometimes the builder misses. So immediately, if not sooner, make sure that's addressed with the sales manager. Don't tell anything verbally. We have no backup with that. Do it in an email and do it verbally. Okay? So you want to make sure that's addressed. It might be a big, huge deal. It might be something that's going to be very costly. It might be something that, could delay completion. So please be aware. I personally, as a sales manager working for the builder and a buyer's agent, I walked it. I walked the houses. I checked in once a week. It's a big deal. You just wanted it to go, so many details go as smoothly as possible. Okay, so here we are. We're almost at closing day. Yay. It's usually a 90 to 120 day process. God forbid, we had bad weather. So you're going to do the walkthrough. Attend the walkthrough. These guys, God bless them, they're used to neurotic buyers that'll go through and, point out every little bitty smudge or everything. These guys are used to that. Okay, try to set up the right expectation like you do for your building inspections. Just patience is the key again. Now, sometimes the buyers, there's a lot left to do. Maybe they did their walkthrough early. Oh my God, nothing's going to get done. And it might be a valid concern and it may not be a valid concern. So again, communicate with your sales manager via your project manager. You very seldom will get to the project manager because their job is to be out in the field, making things happen. Everything is communicated through the sales manager. Okay, that's their job. Okay, so you go to the walkthrough, everything's good. Again, remember, most builders, you're going to have that 1-year warranty after the fact. Another good thing too, and this just popped in my head, one of the points of the 1 year is the seasons changing with nail pops, different things with humidity, as the climate changes is going to affect the new home differently. That's why most builders understand that for the first year. Most of them will do a 3-month walkthrough and a 9-month walkthrough. Have your buyers save those lists for those particular times. It's just, you can't, for lack of a better term, nickel and dime them. They've got to, have some time to go through the full season to make sure they get everything at one time. We all know time is money. So, okay. So another thing that I included is some basic glossary of construction terms. Turnaround time, which we know that probably downspouts. We have a lot of ILO, which means in lieu of, do this in lieu of that. Some different things. So read through those, and then I put a couple of fun sheets in here. Here's a cost estimate evaluation for Rouse. This is an inventory breakdown sheet, kind of give you an idea of some different pricing and some different funds like that. Now I'm hopefully going to go back and look and see if I have any questions throughout this, if I can get back to that. Let me minimize. Hope I don't disconnect everybody. Okay. So this is the time, guys, now that attended. If you have any questions or anything like that, again, I am going to send out the information. This will be recorded. There's a lot more to it, but this will get us the basics. I stuck pretty much to the hour, which this was one of my goals. So again, I absolutely love new construction. It's a great experience. Go check out the builders and see what we can. So, okay, so it doesn't seem like we have any questions right now. And then again, this will be uploaded on Facebook and this will be uploaded on our YouTube channel. You guys have a great day, and I hope that you got at least 1 or 2 takeaways. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.